Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kat, and today we're doing the Bookish Elements Tag. This tag was created by Sarah at My Granny Era, and I love the channel's name. And I was tagged by Nicky at My Messy Bookshelf to do this. How do you feel about foreshadowing or dropped hints? If it's done well, I loved it. I think it's so satisfying and so exciting. Usually when I read, if there is an element of mystery that would require those kind of foreshadowing or hints, I will definitely try to figure things out and I will start developing theories in my brain. And there are usually some sentences or words that will jump out to me and that I will strongly feel are clues. And so if they are not used later on in this story, I'll be a bit annoyed because I felt obviously that they should have been hints and that they should mean something. So if it doesn't pay off, that's always a bit annoying. But yeah, otherwise I love it. I love to try to solve the puzzles and the intrigues that are presented in a book. Bookmarks. What do you use? How do you feel about bending the corner down? So I recently did a whole video about bookmarks, and also since then I've done some decluttering and I found so many old bookmarks that were forgotten in books. So usually in terms of bookmarks, I just use the regular one, like thick paper kind of bookmarks. In terms of folding corners, it depends on the book. I do it fairly rarely, but if I do it, it's usually more to place like pages that I found were important in the book and that I want to go back to, rather than just to keep my place as I read. And I do that mainly when I do it, which again is rare. I will do it more likely with non-fiction because that's where I want to extract information. Forgotten bookmarks. Have you ever found something strange in a book? Strange, not really, but one time I found some full-leaved clovers in a little library book, which was a delightful surprise. Other than that, I haven't really found, again, anything weird. One thing that I like is, again, finding old bookmarks in books. It's always a fun surprise, but I think the best one is finding old photos popping up from you don't know when. I found that really joyful. Inscriptions and annotations. How do you feel about writing in a book, and how do you annotate if you do? I feel a similar way as about bending corners. I will do it from time to time, although more rarely now, I would say. And I do it only with books, again, I'm not precious about. So cheap, low quality books, definitely never with beautiful editions, and also never with books that are not mine. I would never do that to a book that a friend loaned me or library book. That's a big no-no. If I do annotate, I will likely do it in non-fiction rather than fiction, because again, non-fiction, I will try to extract some knowledge or some lessons from it. So I'm more likely to do that. But nowadays, I think I use mainly digital means to annotate books, or rather like keep notes about my reading experience and the thoughts that I might have during reading. So my system is, if I want to keep quotes from the book, if it's short enough, I will type it out. But if it's a bit longer, I use an app called Text Capture that will allow me to take a photo of the text and transcribe it. And then I will put all of that in Notion along with my comments. I also use BrainToss to send myself emails, so I can do a voice note, a picture, or write something down. And so it's a great way for me, again, to record my thoughts as I go through the book. And then I will process all that and put it in a nicer form into Notion. If I am annotating a book physically, then again, it really depends. It can be just from underlining what I find interesting, putting a little mark in the corner of a page to go back to it, to writing full-blown comments about what I'm thinking into the book. But a reason why I'm doing that less and less is because I am much better now with unhauling books that I don't intend on rereading or that I didn't enjoy. And so if I am writing in a book, I want to be sure that I will be able to give it away later on if I decide not to keep it. So if I'm writing, especially if I'm writing in a definitive format, like I can't erase what I've written, then I need to be pretty sure that I will want to keep the book. Introductions and footnotes. Do you read or avoid them? What makes a good introduction? Either I'm reading nonfiction, and so the introduction is usually clearly part of the main text. So in this case, then I'm just happy to read it, no problem, because it's part of the text, I need it. If it's an introduction from someone else, I have that fairly rarely with the kind of books I read, but if that happens, I think I would, read it because I want to understand the context, which is usually why it's there. But it's not something I seek out. I'm not a huge fan of it, but because I want to understand what I'm reading, then I will also make an effort to read the introduction. Accessories. Do you use bookish accessories like a clip-on reading light, book sleeve, annotation materials, bookstand, etc.? Not really. I think the two things I use are bookmarks, obviously, and then I have one book sleeve for when I'm going around with a beautiful book, like a hardcover edition. So I will use that to protect the book in my bag. But that's pretty much it. Again, like I don't really use a lot of post-it notes or stuff to annotate books because I don't do it that often. I prefer to do that digitally. So yep, very, very boring in terms of bookish accessories, I'm sorry. Art and illustrations. How do cover art and illustrations affect your reading experience? Well, I'm not immune to the pretty book syndrome. Obviously, if a book has a gorgeous cover, I'm more likely to check it out. At least doesn't mean that I'm gonna buy it, but obviously it's gonna draw my attention. And if there is a book I'm really interested in and there are several editions, if the price difference is not too noticeable, then I am definitely more likely to pay a little bit more for the edition that I prefer. So yeah, I like aesthetics are quite important for me. So I like beautiful books, but I'm also conscious that what matters most is the content. So I will try to balance those things and make sure that I'm not purchasing a book only because it has a pretty cover. And no shade if that's what you do. Everybody's different. But yeah, for me, I want to read books I'm pretty sure I'm interested in. And if I can get a pretty version of it, then that's a bonus. But I also read quite a bit of graphic novels and biographies. And so in this case, the art style is super important to me. If it's something that I don't like, if I really don't like the aesthetic, it's going to be harder for me to want to read the book because it's such a big part of that specific format. So in this case, ideally, I need both the topic to interest me, but also the art style. And when you find one you love, it's really lovely. Format. Which format of books do you prefer? Hardback, paperback, audio, digital? Do you do different things for different situations? Oh yeah, I definitely use different formats for different types of books and different situations. So my preference is paper. It's always going to be paper. I'm not too particular about hardback or paperback. I have both of them on my shelves. I think it depends also in which context you expect to be reading the book. I find that hardbacks are usually prettier than paperbacks, so I might be more tempted to get a hardback. But if I'm planning to read the book on the go, then the paperback is usually easier. So there's a lot of that consideration going on as well. Also the price, obviously, because it can be quite prohibitive to get hardback. Sometimes they're quite expensive as well. I do love audiobooks, and I started listening to audiobooks initially so that I could keep practicing my Swedish. So I read quite a few very commercial romance books in Swedish because it was easy enough for me to understand. And that kind of sparked my love for audiobooks, because before that I was not listening to audiobooks at all. But the catch with audiobooks is that I can't listen to just anything. If it's literary, I need to see the words. I am a very visual person. And so if I'm listening on audio, I can't focus as much as when I'm watching or like reading on the page. So it needs to be easy enough, entertaining enough that it's fine for me not to give it 100% of my focus. And so with nonfiction, I will sometimes listen to nonfiction because it's also easier to consume. I'm much slower reading nonfiction in paper form than I am with fiction. So to save time, I will sometimes try to listen on audio, but I retain much less. So it also needs to be more like the fluffy side kind of nonfiction. I wouldn't be able to read like a science book in audio form. I think it would be just too much information that isn't processed properly by my brain. And then finally, ebooks. It's definitely the one I like the least. And there are also definitely certain types of books that I'm struggling to read in that format. I tried a couple of books about neurodivergence and I wanted to take notes. I wanted to have the physical book to, like, I don't know, like I need that physical experience to help me retain the information and process it and take notes and write things down. It's just not the same with an ebook. So I ended up DNFing those books because the format was not working for me. But because I'm doing a low buy, I'm also trying to read a little bit more in ebook format, because through my audiobook app, I can also get some ebooks. So it can be a cheaper way to get access to books, for example. And also it takes less space on my shelf. I can have dozens of books with me when I'm traveling, thanks to the ebook format. So I'm trying to do that a bit more, but it's definitely not my preference. So yeah, it's a balance, but I'm slowly finding ways to make it work better for me as well. So it's like a learning curve as well, I would say. I'm noticing that it was easier for me to read an ebook on my iPad because I can have a bigger page than on my Kindle, because it's quite small. And so for traveling, I guess it's better, but in practice, I kind of like the iPad better, which I was not expecting. So anyways, those are my little quirks about format. And then finally, tag some people. So I am tagging Bonnie Nicole, Chelsea from Libraries and Lattes, and Maria Andrea from Books and Bocadillos. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.